Welcome in, everybody, to the fourth edition of Baxter Street Boys. I'm your host, Cole Wilcox, joined by my co-host, Jake Gordon. Griffin's not with us today. He is at ESP overnight camp, so he's off doing better things. But me and Jake are bringing the show to you today. We got a lot to get into. We're gonna talk about the start of camp a little bit, talk some position battles. There was a graphic circulating Twitter about the all-time college football team. We're gonna talk about that a little bit. Last week, we brought you the SEC East predictions. We're not going to go into full detail on the SEC West, but we'll have a little gambling hour for you, talk some over-unders. And then for the main event, we're going to get into some UGA Superlatives. We'll be giving out some awards, anticipating the coming season. Should be a lot of fun. So appreciate you guys listening in. As always, if you're listening on YouTube, watching us, listening in your car, just make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel and on the podcast. Don't be scared to leave us a review. Not asking for 5 stars, of course. We'll earn that. But give us a review. Let's get right into it. Got a lot to cover.
Bam, he's running over people. Oh, you heard that.
There he goes in the corner again, and we jump up. Touchdown! Oh, God, a touchdown in the corner.
We just stepped on their face with a hobnail boot and broke their nose. We just crushed their face.
Swift's got running room. Swift by the defense. 40, 30. They won't catch him. Go, Swift, into the end zone. Touchdown! The freshman just ran it back to Philadelphia. From 50, 10, 5. Touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. Dawgs win it. We're headed to Atlanta. Near sideline, and it's intercepted. Intercepted. Keely Ringo at the 21. Off he goes. 40, 50, 45, 40, 35, 30. Near sideline. Breaks the tackle. 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. Georgia.
I know I'm asking a lot, you guys, but hunker it down one more time.
That's a good one. I mean, can't beat that. But listen, there's a lot of times I envy being a football player. I'm not going to lie. I gave it up when I was a freshman in high school. Didn't love it like I love the other two sports. And when you were sitting in Athens and you see them run out the tunnel and it's a packed out crowd, you're like, dude, this would be sick. But this is one of the weeks where I do not envy being a football player. That's the start of fall camp. I can't even imagine how miserable it is right now.
Yeah, I remember even in high school, we would go down to Carrollton and go down to West Georgia for like a week and a half. It was awful.
Awful. Yeah, and I've seen some of the reports of Kirby getting after him, calling people out for conditioning, getting into him a little bit. It was funny because from the baseball field, so we'd be practicing in the fall, and Kirby operates on a microphone, of course. Like it's a big team, and he's got speakers all over the practice field. Well, we could hear very clearly what he was saying, and dude, he would have us rolling down there. It's a lot better when you're not on the field getting it, when you're just listening to it. I might get into some of the things he says some other time, but dude, it was so funny. It was like he would pick somebody, go into that practice, and then just verbally abuse them for about an hour. It was brutal, but it was fun listening to from there. But starting camp, obviously they're just in helmets right now, so the reports are pretty limited. But I think the main thing to look at is kind of who's running with the ones, who's running with the twos. What are some position battles you'll have your eye on?
Definitely wide receiver. We've talked about receiver a lot. They have so many good options. You look at Ladd. He's a guy who could sneak in and steal some snaps. But, right now it looks like AD is going to be, the guy, the wide receiver one. But obviously Gilbert's going to be mixing in there a little bit, even though he's at a tight end. So it's going to be interesting to see how these receivers, how much burn each one gets.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's definitely one. I mean, I think it always is because we rotate so much. It's pretty obvious all of them are going to play, but it is always cool to see which one's going to line up first and start. And a lot of them have built trust, which is usually the guys who get the nod in Kirby's system. We've talked about that before, but there's a lot of trust been built over the last couple of years with a lot of those guys. So I think what I'm looking at is guard play because that's kind of the most fluid position right now, I would say. I think obviously Tate Ratledge started last year, and he's the guy who their coaching staff was really excited about, and they sound very excited about coming into this year too. But I'm anxious to see how healthy he is. I know the injury he had is one that's not easy to bounce back from, especially when you're 320 pounds. Like that makes injuries usually prolong a little longer. But I think from what I've heard, he's running with the ones. So hopefully he's back and healthy, and that's going to create more competition. I know Willock on the other side and Erickson's going to be mixed in there. So I think there's a lot of fluidity at guard, and even Kirby mentioned it as an area they need to really find somebody to solidify. So hopefully somebody steps up in camp and kind of takes over that, because it is an important position.
Yeah, I'm not a doctor, but apparently I think lens frac is it's like bones and tendons or something. It's a nasty foot injury. It's something you definitely don't want to have to deal with.
Yeah, because I mean, it's pretty rare that you see like a foot injury that keeps them out for the full year, unless something's broke or something. And obviously, but that's one you don't hear about much. And we just never heard about Ratledge from pretty much after the first snap. It was like, yeah, he's out for the year. And there was no like maybe he comes back for the playoff, any of that. Like he was gone. So hopefully he's fully healed and nothing prolongs, because that's kind of the most important thing at this point. But man, if he's ready to roll, that'd be a huge boost for the Dogs, because he's really, really good. Yep. We've talked about those North Georgia boys already, so gotta get them on the field. Any other position battles you think off the top of your head?
Edge will definitely be interesting just because of all the young guys, and I definitely think who's running with the twos with the defensive backs. Which freshmen are making noise early.
Yeah, I think another one is the other opposite of Keely Ringo, who's going to play over there. I feel like we have position battle at corner every year. It seems like. The only one I remember not being is when we had Tyson and Stokes. It was like those two guys. Those are the guys. Like usually it was like, who's going to be on opposite side of Baker? Who's going to be on the opposite side of Stokes until Tyson came in? Like it's always been a battle. And obviously we've always had good ones because Kirby's kind of the corner guy anyway. So I've heard a lot of good things about, I've heard Nylan Green's been getting some mix. I think I'm going blank on the guy who's probably going to start.
I think Everett was another one that was getting. Kamari last year is probably Kamari's going to get some burn over there. So.
Yeah, I've heard Kamari's look really good. So a lot of guys, but yeah, I think some of those younger guys are ultra talented. So they're gonna try to play their way in there. But it is nice to have Keely on the other side, so you can really just let those guys battle it out for one spot. Because when you take away a side of the field, like you see it all the time, they're going to get picked on. Like that side of the field is going to get picked on a lot. So we're going to see who's up for it pretty quick. I have a feeling that Dan Lanning will be picking on that side for a majority of the game. So we talked about the graphics kind of been circulating Twitter a little bit. The all-time college football team. And well, Jake sent it to me, and we kind of started texting about it, and we were like, screw it, let's just run this on the pod. But Jake, can you read off kind of the all three teams? I think he's frozen right now.
Yeah.
You got it.
Yeah, sorry, I cut there for a second.
Y'all good?
My buddy Cruz, Oxen Rider, made this. He has the Ox Cord Pod as well. Great name, by the way.
Yeah, it is.
But it's three teams. Team A is Cam Newton, Zeke, Justin Blackman, OJ Howard. Team B, Vince Young, Derrick Henry, Percy Harvin, Hunter Henry. And I think a lot of people are overlooking Hunter Henry on this graphic, by the way. Hunter Henry was a monster. Team C, Joe Burrow, Reggie Bush, AJ Green, Kyle Pitts. I think that is actually so difficult to choose between. I kind of think I know who I'm going to say, but you go ahead.
Well, the overwhelming vote on Twitter was like C easy. And I understand why. Like, number one, you have the recency bias with Joe Burrow. Reggie Bush at this point is like a college football folk hero. Like he's the type of guy who you just like put on this pedestal and you're like, oh, he was the best ever. He was the greatest in his position. And then AJ Green was an awesome pro. He was flashy. And then Kyle Pitts is probably the best tight end we've seen in college football. So I do think that's kind of skews it with Kyle Pitts on that team. But for me, it's hard for me not to pick Team A because I think Cam Newton is the best college football player I've personally ever watched. I don't think it's really remotely close. Like, he won a national championship on offense pretty much by himself. He was unbelievable. And I think him and Burrow is like the biggest difference in terms of players. Like, imagine Cam Newton with that LSU offense. They would be more than unstoppable. And then you look at Zeke, and I think people forget how good Zeke was at Ohio State. Reggie Bush had one really good year. You look at Zeke's sophomore and junior year, and he's putting up virtually the same stats as Reggie Bush did. He's rushing for 1,800 yards. He's running for 400. I think that's almost a wash there, even though people will call me crazy, but because Reggie Bush, like I said, is a folk hero. And then you go to the receiver, AJ Green in dog country is AJ Green, and he's the man. He's one of my favorite dogs ever. Justin Blackman was putting up unbelievable stats at Oklahoma State. Like, I'm pretty sure they won the Big 12 when he was there solely because he was just dominating everyone. Like, he caught for dang near 1,700, 1,800 his junior year. It was nuts. His stats were crazy. So I still think I would pick C because Kyle Pitts skews it so hard. but A is tough not to pick for me.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth. I think I have to go with A just because we saw Cam Newton take a bunch of guys who never even came close to the NFL, really, except for, a few exceptions that weren't big difference makers. He took those guys to a national championship and won. I think that's the big difference for me. I really think, okay, we're talking about Cam Newton, who was already incredible by himself, and then Cam Newton with help. But I do want to say, I can't, it's hard to sleep on Team B. Vince Young and Derrick Henry. Man, you want to talk about a read option with those two? Percy Harvin, he was electric back in his day, and Hunter Henry is really, really underrated when you start talking about great tight end in college football history.
Yeah, Percy Harvin was electric. I mean, Percy Harvin was like the guy, like in college football. It was him and Tebow were kind of that combo. But yeah, I keep going back to A. Justin Blackman wasn't a big name in the NFL, so people forget about him, and you don't really remember what he did. He was virtually unstoppable in the Big 12, and he put up, like I said, insane stats. So I don't think you can just discount Team A on this one, in my opinion, because you got Cam, you got Justin Blackman, and then Zeke was a monster. I mean, he kind of ran all over Alabama in the playoff, that first playoff. So
yeah, super well made. Like I said, when you can argue for all three, that's how you know it was well made.
Yeah, I understand. Like everybody is saying C. I don't think it's close, just because, like I said, the name AJ Green is so big, and he was such a good pro. Still is a good pro. So I get it, but when you're looking at just college, like you said, you can argue all three of those. That's a very well-made graphic. Hats off. Pitts is just such a difference maker, though, in that, like, he was unstoppable, and he still is. You can't compare him to anybody. It's tough to even put him down there with those guys.
Yep.
OJ was no slouch either, though.
OJ Howard made some huge plays for that Bama team, especially in the Natty against Clemson.
And OJ was kind of the freak. Like when he was there, like he was kind of the new wave of tight end. Like, this guy's a receiver. He's playing tight end.
He's 5-star. He was like the original. Yeah.
Right. Like he's kind of ahead of his time a little bit. So yeah, no, like you said, really, really good graphic. I want to talk about another graphic, the head coaching graphic that we made and put out. They got some good interaction, but my favorite one was this Georgia Tech fan. Bless their hearts to start with. So if you haven't seen the graphic, check our Twitter. It's the only head coaching tier that should matter. If you have an argument, just refer to it because there's no faults. But I had Jeff Collins in the head and the guillotine section, which I believe is true. There's just no way that they keep letting him win 2 games and him not get fired. Well, a Georgia Tech fan commented and says he should be a spot lower than the other guys. And I was like, dude, there's no way y'all still want him there. Like he's completely destroyed any type of program that was there. He said, yeah, that's why he should be a tier lower. I was like, y'all are supposed to be the smart ones. Like the head and the guillotine means he's gone. It wasn't necessarily like the top is the best and the bottom are the worst. It was like the head and the guillotine, you're fired. Like Jeff Collins is out. Am I wrong for saying that?
No, I think if they have another 3-win season, I mean, he might have to make a bowl game just to even save his job. Yeah. The phasing out of the triple option excuse, like it's been 3-4 years. He's already lost Joe Gibbs, who was arguably one of the best recruits they've ever had. And I mean, time's running out. And, I guess you could argue like, you're Georgia Tech, how much better can you really do? But I mean, being in Atlanta, surely you can find a coach that can recruit Atlanta at least.
I'll just never forget his opening statements where he was saying he imagined him and Jeff Sims holding up the trophy in Mercedes-Benz one day. I was like, bro, you're coming out hot like that, taking over Georgia Tech. Like, let's relax a little bit. But yeah, you notice how they used to be all big on social media, pumping the weights on the sideline, and now they've kind of gone silent. I feel like that's kind of come from the top. Like, hey, this was cool at first to get traction, but then you suck. Like, cut this out until you start winning. So there it is, kind of a dumpster. Do you hate Georgia Tech?
Yeah, definitely.
It's always been weird for me because they're just kind of irrelevant, like that. They've never been a team that I just completely hated, like I hate Florida. Yeah. I hate Tennessee. I hate those teams. Georgia Tech, and I know it's kind of an older generation thing where they hate them. I mean, they hate Georgia Tech, and I understand that because they were competitive. Even when I was younger, they were competitive. Like Paul Johnson had some good years, but to me, it's just never been a big hatred. Even when we played them in baseball, I never hated Tech. It's just
I just don't think about them. And honestly, and I mean, you also consider I really don't know that many Georgia Tech fans.
None. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to hate a team when the fan base is what you hate. You don't really hate the team. So yeah, you're right. It'd be like hating Vanderbilt. But anyway, let's move over into some SEC West talk. We talked about the SEC East, who we thought was going to get second. We really broke down the teams and stuff. But here we're just going to go straight over-unders. I took these over-unders off my site and with the odds. We'll start in Tuscaloosa, obviously. You can't talk SEC West without talking about Bama. But their over-under is set at 11.5, which is crazy. 11.5, and the over is juiced at plus 130. What are you taking here?
I don't think Bama loses in the regular season this year, so I guess I got to take the over.
Yeah.
I see them losing a regular season game. I think a lot of people are definitely way in over their heads talking about Texas, Texas upsetting them. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Texas A&M is a revenge spot for them, and they're very good in revenge spots, as we know.
Yeah.
I just don't see a loss in their schedule.
Yeah. I personally would never lay money with the team, me betting on a team going undefeated. Like, I would never do that. I think you always slip up. And it's juiced. The over is plus 130, which makes me think, like, maybe Vegas knows something a little bit. They do have some tough road games. Like you mentioned, Texas, which if you think back to 2019, they gave LSU all they could handle. They gave them the best game that year. I know it was early, but this one's early too. They go 2 LSU, 2 Tennessee, 2 Arkansas. So some pretty tough road games. But, like, personally, I don't think they're going to lose. Like, I'm with you. But if you forced me to put money on this, I would probably take the under.
It'll be curious to see too at LSU, because obviously Bama has had their way with Brian Kelly, but Alabama LSU is always different. Even last year, like Ed Orgeron on his way out, they almost beat Alabama. They should have beat Alabama, and they just couldn't get it done. Even when LSU is not good, it feels like they can still give Bama a tough game. Yeah,
and we'll get to LSU in a minute, but I got a lot of people are down on them, and I'm kind of confused why. Next team, Arkansas. The Fighting Sam Pittmans. 7.5. The over is juiced to plus 145. So Vegas thinks they're going to go under here. What do you got?
I'm going to take the over. I'm going to take over.
Yeah.
I don't have their schedule in front of me. Who do they play out of? They have
so that's the thing.
Don't they?
Arkansas has not only probably the toughest schedule in the nation, but they also have the dumbest schedule in the nation. Number one, they up with Cincinnati at home, which, that was probably booked 5 years ago, so they didn't really know what Cincinnati was trending to. Still a team I wouldn't really want to schedule, I don't think, ever. But that's not the worst part. The worst part is in November, in the middle of SEC play, they go to Utah and play BYU. They play at BYU in the middle of SEC play. Whoever booked that is the dumbest schedule maker I've ever seen in my life.
It was probably back when Chad Morris was still there.
Yeah, he did everything wrong.
I still like over. I like KJ Jefferson. They got experience. And I'm in on Sam Pittman. I'm in on his ability to be a head coach, and I'm in on his ability to be a winner every year. So I'm gonna take the over.
That's the thing about Sam Pittman, man. Like Kirby Smart deserves 80% of the rebuild, like credit for the rebuild. He did it. Not necessarily rebuild, but taking us to national championship contender level. Like he was that guy. He rejuvenated recruiting, all of that. The guy who, in my opinion, deserves the second most amount of credit is Sam Pittman. Like the way he changed the line of scrimmage at Georgia is what the foundation was like moving forward. Like you could just see that's why we dominate teams. We dominate the SEC East because our line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball are way better. And Sam Pittman does that. You never hear a player say anything bad about him. Like he just knows how to motivate a team. I'm also going over there. I think it's juiced to plus 145. I think it's good odds. I'm taking Arkansas over 7.5. Auburn. The over-under set at 6. The under is juiced to plus 110.
I know that makes me want to take the under, man. We talked about this, man. When Auburn is back to a corner, that is when they come out and win 9 games, 10 games. When everybody is down on Auburn, that's when they do their best work, and that makes me nervous. And for that reason, I'm going to take the over.
Me too. I would hammer the over. This might be one I actually play because, to me, number one, Auburn still is a top 15 in terms of talent. Like they're always going to have that talent. That's what they do. Brian Harsin has made me a fan. Like with all the stuff that they threw at him this offseason, it's like the boosters wanted him out. They're pinning all that stuff on him, proved all to be BS. And he just kind of takes it in stride. He's like, listen, I didn't do it. I'm not worried about it. And now he's coaching. I've heard a lot of good things coming out from people who are pretty close to program. So I think Auburn's a team to watch out for. I really, really do.
I think they make a bowl game. That's really what you're betting on here. I think Auburn is a team that makes a bowl game.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think going into Auburn is ever going to be an easy win, ever. So, and they don't leave Auburn for like the first 6 weeks of the season. They play Penn State at home. They play like 2 SEC teams at home. They don't leave. So they can get 5 before October starts.
I think that's really what you're betting on here is if they win that Penn State game, and I think they do.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, that's the big swing for sure. They should have won it last year. LSU 6.5. Unders juiced to +115.
I can't take the over on all these teams, but I don't know. I kind of like the over on LSU. Brian Kelly's not a guy that's going to go out there and lose 8 games.
Again, I know they lost Eli Ricks to Alabama. I know they lost Eric Gilbert to Georgia. They're still they're not even top 15. They're top 5, 6 in terms of team talent. Like they have the talent there. It's probably, I would venture to say, Brian Kelly's most talented team he's ever coached. And I know it's year one. I understand that there's growing pains with every year one coach. That's just how it is. But there's too much talent there to not win more than 6 games, in my opinion. You have Death Valley. You have one of the best environments in college football. I would take the over here on LSU as well. I think they're going to be a lot better than people think, a whole lot better. And we get to see them on a primetime game Sunday night. I think it's Sunday. It might be Monday night against FSU in week 1, which will be sick. 2 teams that really, really need that win. Yeah.
Should be a win.
Should be a win. That'd be a good way to kick off the tenure for sure. Ole Miss is set right at 8. Under is juiced to +115.
You go first on this one.
I got the under. Ole Miss is a team, and I like Jackson Dart a lot. This is some background. I room with a guy down here that is a USC. He went to USC, big time USC fan. So I watched every USC game last year, whether I liked it or not. It was some boring football. But there was one game where Slovis got hurt and Dart came in, and he was slinging.
I know what you were talking about. I can't remember who it was.
I think it was Washington State.
Yes,
I think it was Washington State.
Game.
And I was like, yo, this guy is actually good. But so as soon as I saw this number, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna take the over. But then I started looking at their schedule. And it starts off, it's a cakewalk, man. It's Troy, Central Arkansas, Georgia Tech, Tulsa. They're home against Kentucky at Vanderbilt. An absolute cakewalk. And then mid-October hits. Auburn at LSU, at A&M, Alabama, at Arkansas, the Egg Bowl. I'm taking the under. I don't think they win 8 games.
It's going to be close. I could see him winning 7. I could see him winning 8 on the nose. It is going to be close. That's one that I definitely wouldn't touch. Definitely would put my money on.
This stems from me thinking LSU and Auburn are going to be better than people think. So I think they lose one of those. And then they lose to Bama, A&M. I think maybe Kentucky, like at Arkansas. I think those are all losses. So I'm taking the under there. Mississippi State 6.5. Unders juiced to +115.
I'm not buying Mississippi State. I'm not. I got them right at like 6. I think they can make a bowl game as a 6-win team.
Yeah.
I think 6 is a good number for them, so I'll go under on them as well.
Yeah, I like Will Rogers a lot. I think he's a very underrated quarterback. He can really sling the pill. But yeah, I saw they were Georgia's only team that they're not favored by double digits against. I hope it stays like that by the time it gets there. That's all I'm saying. I'll take the under there too. Last one, and this one's tough for me. A&M over under at 9, and the over is juiced +120.
9. That's a lot.
It's a lot.
I don't want to make the joke, and today is August 4th, and everybody's been saying it all day, but I kind of like them at 8 wins. Happy 8-4. Yeah, I know everybody loves to say that to me, but I don't think they're there yet. Yeah, they had an incredible recruiting class, but I think they're still maybe a year or 2 away. And I could see them at 8 wins next year. They're obviously trending in the right direction, but I think 9 is a little too rich for my blood going into next year.
Yeah.
It depends. What's their out-of-conference schedule? Who do they got?
No, they've got Miami at home, which is a huge, huge game in week 3, but it is at home. It is at home.
They should handle Miami. I think they should win that game.
I agree. Miami later in the year I'd be worried about, but if you listen to Jimbo Fisher talk, I forget the kid's name, but he thinks that the freshman that they have in is the best freshman quarterback in the country. And listen, you can say what you want about Jimbo Fisher. He's kind of known as a choke artist since he's been at A&M and stuff. One of the best offensive play callers in the country. And when he says that about a quarterback, who am I not to believe him? You know? So if this guy comes out and he's even like, if he gives them B+, A- quarterback play with the talent they have, I would take the over just because it's juiced to +120. Give me some plus money there. But I think 9 is probably, I think that would push. I'll be honest with you. I think it'll push. But
I think 9's a good spot for them, man. I think A&M's still a year away before they arrive, but I definitely wouldn't be surprised either way. 8 wins, 10 wins, like that one's a true toss-up I probably wouldn't touch.
The biggest thing I got out of this is I'm glad Georgia's in the East. I'll be honest with you. The West is a gauntlet, man. The West is a gauntlet. And, like, I think Georgia's still way better than all these teams except Bama. But that's kind of how Bama is. They're way better. But, like, if you're a middle of the pack, like, second place is wide open. It's wide open. Yeah. It is in the East, too. But I think, like, the level of talent in the West right now is far outweighs the East. I think hopefully that comes kind of back to even. But the West is loaded, man. Loaded. There's no just bad team. Like, you don't want to play Mississippi State in Starkville. No. That's a good team. But somebody has to lose. Like, that's why it's set at 6.5. Just because they go 7-5 or 6-6 doesn't mean they suck. They just had to play all these teams.
And we talk about them, you know, being maybe last. That they would still probably be bowl eligible at 6 wins.
Yeah, 100%. That's the thing. Like, and Josh Pate says this all the time. People say you are what your record says you are. That's just not true. I mean, a team that goes 7-5 in the West is not a bad team. They just had to play a gauntlet. You might have a bad road schedule. You might be Auburn and have the toughest schedule ever, like always, or Arkansas. You're playing BYU in November. It's tough. It's a tough say. That's what they say about the SEC. Like, oh, the bottom teams suck. You're wrong. You're simply wrong. All right, let's get into the fun part. Everybody's been waiting on this. We're getting back into dog talk. We've talked enough about the other teams. Let's focus on the team in Athens. So we're gonna do a little exercise here. We're gonna give out some superlatives, and they're kind of all over the place here. I have some serious ones and some that I just kind of made up. So, Jake, I'll let you go first. Let's give out some superlatives to the Dogs.
I guess I'll do my serious one first.
Okay.
I'm gonna do most likely to get a big man touchdown. I'm gonna go with Jalen Carter on a fullback dive. I think maybe you start to see a trend with with Kirby, getting these guys involved like Jordan Davis against Charleston Southern. I think he's because Jalen Carter's at fullback on that play right there too. By the way, I could see Jalen Carter taking a fullback dive and give him a touchdown. Maybe in a game like this, maybe in a bigger situation, maybe they hit a little rollout play and dump it off to him in the corner of the end zone. I would love it. I'd love to see him at tight end, fullback, anything.
Yeah, and he had one. Was it a 2-point conversion or a touchdown he had as a freshman against Tennessee?
I think it was a 2-point. I think it was a 2-point conversion. I can't remember.
Yeah, I'm thinking it was too. But yeah, he's that's a good award because that's one that will actually happen. Todd Monken loves drawing that up. I don't have an honorable mention for that. I'll be honest. He's the guy. Like, he's just too athletic. There's nobody as athletic as him and that big. So definitely a guy who can get a big man touchdown. You start with your serious one. I'll do my serious one. I got comeback player of the year, Dominic Blaylock. I think Dawgs fans forget how good he was as a freshman. Like, he was a pro, man. His route running, his ball skills, everything about him was a pro. He was one of those guys who was committed since he was young and just he loved the Dogs. Like, he's a Georgia guy. So I'm really, really excited to see Dom come back. I hope he's healthy, man. I really, really hope he's healthy. He's a guy who deserves a shot, and he's an easy guy to pull for. So I'm giving Dom Blaylock comeback player of the year. You have an
agree 100% on Dom. Yeah, I agree with him 100% on Dom. Everything you said, great kid. I really hope he gets some burn this year, especially in a loaded wide receiver room. I hope he can separate himself. My guy, though, I'm going to say honorable mention. I'm going to go with Tyke Smith. I think he could really have a big year at that safety position. I think he could really be the top dog of this secondary outside of Keely Ringo. And, he was getting so much hype going into last year for a reason. It's unfortunate that he got hurt, but if he stays healthy this year, he's a guy who could be a first-round pick.
Man, that'd be so big for us, too, to have that guy on the back end. Like, him and Chris Smith, and if he lives up to that spot, like, that would be so big. Because I trust those guys so much. And if you have people you trust back there, you can let Keely be more aggressive. You can let whoever is on the other side be more aggressive. It frees up so many things. So, hopefully they both come back.
That's how I always felt about LeCount.
Yeah.
I could trust LeCount.
Yeah, he would bite on some things, but he would make a play too, That's just kind of what talent does. I'll read Griffin's here. Griffin sent us some since he's not with us. and he said that he wanted me to read this one first because he's this guy. He said the better than your quarterback award, Stetson Bennett. I think that's all there is to say on that. I don't know if there needs to be any explanation there. He just said better than your quarterback award, Stetson Bennett. So it's the Quavious Bennett, actually. If you haven't seen that, if you haven't seen the video of the fade, follow our Twitter. We're all over it. But yeah, for now on this platform and all platforms, he is the Quavious Bennett with the new fade looking fresh. I mean, he's just buying into it at this point. He's going for the Heisman.
Who took the video, by the way? Because that was a hilarious caption.
I would love to know who took the video. It was so funny. But dude, I got dead serious. I'm more confident in Stetson now, which is dumb. But because of that haircut, I seriously am. I'm seriously more confident in it.
Your quarterback's got to have a little drip. He's got to have a little something for you.
Yeah. Well, it's what he came out in the leggings in like was it the playoffs where he started that? And he actually looked way better.
Yeah.
Like he looked like he was slinging the ball harder. I was like, dude, you're kind of looking swaggy right now. And now he's rocking the fade. He's got a nice little chain on in the picture. Come on now. It's the Quavious here to stay.
I'm going to go with my next one. I think this has no competition. Unless you've dug somebody up, I think there's no competition on this one. Somebody that we've already talked about, most likely to win a Morgan Wallen lookalike contest. We have Tate Ratledge. I mean, you talk about some lettuce, man. That guy has got some lettuce. Like I got a little bit going on. I'm about to cut it. Like the next episode, this might be gone. If not, it'll be the one after that. But that guy has some serious lettuce, man. Like anybody would be jealous of that head of hair. Great trash stash. He's really just got the look down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's that Darlington, Georgia coming out of him right there. That is factual. He does look like Morgan Wallen. He's a lot big. He could eat Morgan Wallen, but he does look like Morgan Wallen.
Yeah,
yeah. But dude, that's sick though. Like you have an offensive guard with a mullet and a stash. Like he's going to give it to you. You know he's going to be a dog.
You need a country boy at guard.
You need
to have a country boy at guard. Like Ben Cleveland. Ben Cleveland was the perfect guard. He ate squirrel, and if it's like you weren't touching his quarterback.
When Ben Cleveland, listen, I was always a guy, like I understood football and I still understand football quite well. I played it. But like when you listen to Brooks talk about the offensive line, you know he knows way more than me. Obviously, he played the position, he understands it, he gets it. And I've never really paid attention to offensive line. But when Ben Cleveland got inserted in the starting lineup in 2017, everything changed. I couldn't take my eyes off Ben Cleveland. It was like watching the center for Iowa last year, Linderbaum. When you watch, he made watching Iowa fun because he was unbelievable. He was just dominating dudes. That's how Ben Cleveland was. It was awesome. So yeah, put a country boy at guard, let him go to work. I have he's got that dog in him award. He's got that dog in him award is Nolan Smith for obvious reasons. I deemed him the captain on Twitter, and I think he's the guy who's going to take over this defense. He's a dude who loves to play against the run. He'll attack the quarterback. He'll do the dirty work. He's just got that dog in him. So he's a guy who I'm really looking forward to this year. I've always respected the way he plays, and I'm hoping he gets the chance to pin the ears back and get the quarterback this year.
Yeah, for my honorable mention, I'm gonna go A.D. Mitchell, and there's a reason I'm gonna go A.D. Mitchell. He might seem like a strange choice. The touchdown celebrations, man, like his touchdown cellies are so elite. When he just goes and hits a bow, remember that little zig route he hit against Auburn last year?
Yeah, that was wicked.
Just put it right by the pylon.
That was wicked.
Cellies, for that reason, I gotta go with AD.
That was wicked. I love that route, dude. I love it. I hope he runs it more often. Like he looks so athletic right there. So
snapped him off. No, like there's no guarding that.
A weapon. Well, that's funny because AD is going to get 2 awards here because Griffin is given the Take Your Lunch Money Award to AD Mitchell. And he says it's because of the play in the national championship, obviously, where he just absolutely fathered Kool-Aid McKinstry. That was probably you can make an argument that's the best catch in Georgia history. Definitely the most impactful. But yeah, AD Mitchell for the most likely to take your lunch money award. So shout out Griff for his two awards he submitted. Yeah, we'll go back to you. Go back to you here.
I thought, okay, yeah, that's right. I got one more. I'm gonna go. I think I'm gonna go with most likely to be a special teams warrior, And I like Cole Spear out of Calhoun for this. We got to give some shine to our other North Georgia guys.
Yeah.
This kid is a freak athlete, man. I think he was clocking like 4.2s. And I think he could be somebody like Ladd that gets a little burn, kick return, punt return, maybe even as a gunner. That speed, it's hard to keep off the field. And so I like him to get some burn this year on special teams. Maybe make a big play or two, maybe take a punt back or a kick back.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, do you have an honorable mention for take your lunch money?
Oh, Brock Bowers. I mean, when we look at him, man, I keep thinking maybe even Ladd, just for what he did against Vanderbilt, that he just absolutely demolished that poor defender, took it off the top of his helmet.
Yeah.
But you look at Bowers, man, leaving, putting 10 yards in between him and that Georgia Tech defender with that run after the catch. I mean, that's just different.
Yeah. 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 Most likely to take your lunch money. My honorable mention for yours, special teams warrior. This is tough, but this is more last year. I don't think he might still be on special teams because heck, Trayvon Walker was playing special teams. So Mikael Sherman last year, I'd be sitting in the end zone and this dude was running in the field, and I'm like, if I was anywhere near him, I would run the opposite direction. He was a freight train running down the field. And it was always on kickoff, and we never really fielded the kickoff, which I love. Kick that thing 17 rows deep in the student section. I don't want to see a kick return. I don't want to see him get back to the 40. So I love that we did that, but I did want to see Mikael Sherman lay the wood on somebody because he was flying, and he's a big, big dude. So that guy, I
think MJ's going to get some play this year. He's going to get some burn at inside linebacker this year, definitely.
He's too big not to. Like he's a monster. But yeah, those are two guys to watch on special teams for sure. My last award is the Tighten Your Chin Strap Award to Chaz Chambliss. Anytime he came in to the game, he was knocking heads, and I loved it. He's the guy who you can see he just loves contact, loves to get after it. He's a dude I'm sure that Kirby Smart loves because he's the guy you're not going to be able to keep off the field. He looked really good every time he came in the game. And if you never played football, you don't understand. When you get hit hard, your chin strap tightens up. It'll tighten up so hard your face will feel like it's scrunched up. I don't know what the science is behind that, but if it's not tightened after Chaz hits you, or if it's not tightened before Chaz hits you, it dang sure will be after he hits you. You got an honorable mention for that one?
Yeah, I'm going to go JJ. I want to see him make some plays in middle linebacker this year. I want to see him clean a couple guys up. I keep that power behind him too. He's a great athlete. Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's a guy who could definitely do it too. I was trying to think of some more awards while we were sitting here, but those were the three I had off the top of my head.
You might have an honorable mention for this one.
Okay. You got another one?
I'm gonna go most likely to be first off the bus. I'm gonna go with freshman Jacob Hood, offensive lineman. They got him at 6'8", 350.
Whoo. Yeah. Let that guy step off the bus first for sure. That's a mountain, dude. I'll never forget. It may have been Griffin that was with me. I don't think it was. I think it was another baseball player. But we're living at ECV as my freshman year. I get on the elevator and Quay Walker's on there. And I consider myself a pretty big dude. And I step on there with him and I'm like, oh my gosh. This dude is filled out in areas I didn't know you could be filled out at. I remember he got off before us, and whoever I was standing there with, I'm like, that guy was a real life refrigerator. If you hit him, it would be like hitting a brick wall. And he proved that. From that time on, I was just begging for Quay Walker to get on the field. And I'm like, this guy is going to make plays. He's unbelievable. Yeah, that's a good one, though. I didn't realize Jacob Hood was that big.
I didn't either. Because I was going to give it to Darnell Washington, and then I saw what they had Hood listed at 6'8", 350. I was like, damn, they're feeding these guys.
Darnell's a good one for most likely to take your lunch money. Because that dude will pancake you. That dude will he'll put his two paws on you and drive you into the dirt.
Yeah. I
love watching him block. He's another guy who's fun to watch block. It's pretty rare, but he just gets downhill and just eats people up. This is a position battle we didn't talk about, kind of going back to spring or to fall camp. Who do you think will be the clear number 2 heading into the season behind Stet?
I think it'll be Beck. I think he practices well enough, and that's really the only time you're going to be seeing anybody besides Stetson. So I think it'll be Beck.
Yeah, I got a lot of respect for Beck too, because he's a guy who you've never really even heard about rumors of him transferring. He's committed. He knows that I think he must just really like the system, know that he can flourish in it, and I think the coaches have the utmost respect for that. So yeah, I think he's a guy they definitely trust, and he'll be the number 2. I think that's one to watch though, because I don't know that they'll all stay. And we've talked about how dumb it is to kind of get into all the antics of who'll stay and who'll leave. Like the best players are going to stay, the ones that don't win are going to leave. That's just how it is. But that's definitely an area to watch, and I'm hoping that this year we score enough points to where we let the backups get some more time than they got last year, because it's always good to see how those guys react during games.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, that was the show for today. We're getting really close to the season now. Like it's starting to realize how close it is. It's kind of snuck up on me. I think half of that has to do with the fact that the national championship has kind of eased the offseason a little bit. Usually I'm just absolutely foaming at the mouth, and I'm starting to get to that point. We got some preseason on tonight. Griffin texted me, asked what I was taking in it. So that's where we're at in terms of football right now, where we need it bad. But
yeah,
it's coming up. Can't wait. I got a lot more in store on this show. And we appreciate y'all listening. And as always, go Dogs.